Hi everyone, so I wanted to show you how I made a haunted house decoration for Halloween. First of all, you need two small boxes. The bottom box is 15 by 15 by 15 centimeters and the top box is 14 by 14 by 14. 14 by 14 by 14. So because you want the top box smaller than the bottom box. And then what you do is you attach the two boxes together with some masking tape. It involves squeezing in the bottom box a little bit because you want it to look uneven and rickety because it's an old building. And then to that I added a sloping roof, a little balcony thing, and like a little porch. It's all made out of foam board, mine is, but you can use thick cardboard or foam board, whichever you've got to hand. If you use cardboard, make sure it's the corrugated, the box card that's quite thick, that you'd get like, not doll boxes or anything, you want thicker than that. It's the one where it's got like the corrugated in between, so like an Amazon box, like an Amazon delivery box, that sort of thickness, that's what you want to go for. And once you've got your basic structure worked out, then what you do is you cut out strips of cardboard that are the width of your house and 2 centimeters, so it's like the width of your, I'm really not explaining this well, am I? Basically each strip of these pieces of card that I've cut out are 2 centimeters thick, and I've cut them to the length to match the house, because I want to make the house look like it's an old one made out of wood. Then what you do is you glue these onto your house, overlapping slightly, as you can see me doing here, and you do this for the entire house, all the walls and everything. For the roof you can do it two ways. For the small sloping roof I cut out 2 centimeter strips and then cut into that the roof tile shapes. For the larger porch at the bottom, what I did was actually just cut out separate tile shapes out of cardboard and then just stuck them on individually, so I could get a bit more of a sort of rickety, uneven look, because I found by doing it with a strip of card and then cutting the roof tile shapes into the strip of card, it looks quite uniform, as you can see on that small sloping bit of roof. But on the bottom one, doing the individual tiles, it meant you could make it look like tiles are falling off, tiles are looser. It just gives you a bit more flexibility on making it look a bit more like it's collapsing and stuff. Once it's painted you can't see much of a difference anyway. Then I took strips of card and stuck them first of all around the windows to create window frames, and then got small strips of card and stuck them across the windows to make it look like the windows were boarded up but the boards are falling off. Then all over the house I used my hot glue gun and just went backwards and forwards rubbing the hot glue all over the house to create texture, and I used little beads of glue to make it look like nails in the wood. So I added texture all over the building first of all before I did anything else. Then once that had cooled down, I painted the entire house black, because that's like the base coat that you need, because you want it all one colour first of all. After I've painted the house black, I then took grey paint, it's all acrylic paint by the way, and I dry brushed the light grey acrylic paint over the top of the house, and as you can see it makes all that texture and all that detail stand out, because when the house is painted black you can't really see all the details that you've added, whereas once you dry brush over the top, the light grey sticks to the raised surfaces on the box and it doesn't actually like paint the entire thing. As long as you've got to have your brush fairly dry, not too much paint on your brush, and basically you're just using the very tip of the bristles and just using a like fast flicking motion, and that just catches the very top of the raised surfaces on the box. And as you can see here, it really makes those details stand out, and It adds a bit of depth to the house as well, because obviously you've got the black base coat and then adding the dry brushing on the top, and the black base coat stays in all the nooks and crannies and the recesses to make them look deeper, and the bits that are dry brushed with the light grey stand out a lot more, and it just shows off that texture. And as you can see, I added texture using the glue gun all over the whole thing. I wanted it to look like, I wanted the slat shapes to make it look like it was made out of wood, and then I used my glue gun to add texture, because this is an old, battered, collapsing, quite dilapidated house that's just haunted now, and that's how I created that look for the house. So it's all hot glue and cardboard. Also, you know, the edges of the building itself, if you look, I've actually stuck a strip of cardboard all around the edges as well, just to finish off the edges of the box, because otherwise you can see the edges of the small strips of card. So by adding those pieces that go on all the corners of the house, all the edges of the house, it just makes it look a bit more finished, and it looks like those are like the support beams, or the, you know, part of the main structure of the house. As you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm just adding a bit more of the light grey. I'd already done a little bit on this side, but I decided it wasn't light enough, so I added some more. With the beauty with the dry brushing as well is, if it goes wrong and you think, nah, this looks really naff, I've chose the wrong colour, just repaint the box black, let it dry for like 10 minutes, because it's acrylic paint, it dries really quick, and then you can do the dry brushing again. It's dead easy to fix. Or you can wipe off some of the dry brushing if you've just this second done it with a baby wipe, dry off the house and then do another coat. It's dead easy to fix if you think you've done a mistake. And basically with dry brushing, the secret is less is more. So you want a very, very tiny amount of paint on your brush, and you can always add more later on. Whereas if you add too much to start off with, it's a case of repainting or taking that off and starting again. It's always best to add a little bit at a time, and you can always add more as you need. And as you can see, all I'm doing here is I'm going over the surfaces a bit more, just to make sure they stand out a bit. Now on the roof, I added some texture around the hole in the roof and some little strips of card to make it look like broken beams. And as you can see, I added the dry brushing on top. I am going to add a bit more detail to those textured bits around the hole in a bit, because what I've done is I've added extra texture with the glue gun around the hole, and I'm going to paint those green to make it look like it's like moss or foliage or something that's starting to grow in the hole on the roof. So as you can see there, I got like a very obvious brush stroke, and all I did was I just took that off with my baby wipe and then went over the whole area again. So it is dead easy to fix. That's why I love this technique, because it's so effective, but it's dead easy. Once you get the hang of it, once you get the hang of how light you have to hold the brush and how hard you have to press or anything, it's like magic. I just love how it makes the details suddenly pop, like it's making all of those little roof tiles stand out, because it's just catching the very edges of them. And it's just my favourite painting technique when I create things for Halloween and stuff. I just love dry brushing. The other one I use is antiquing, which is where, like, say I've got a doll and I want to like dull down the surface of the doll and make it look older or quite battered and stuff. What I tend to do is I'll either paint a layer of black over the whole doll, or like a dark muddy browny colour, and then wipe that off with a baby wipe just very lightly. And again, the paint sticks in all the recesses and everything, and then what happens is the paint comes off the raised areas. So it works the same way as dry brushing. It's just, instead of adding the lighter colour on, you're actually removing the darker colour to make the lighter colour, if you get me. So here I'm going over the roof tiles to make them stand out a bit more, and just finish off the dry brushing of the house. I liked this sort of almost charcoaly grey mixed with black colour for the house, because I wanted it to be a really spooky dark house. and I just think that this colour looks really good. This works as well if you're making like little fake tombstones or anything as well. Exactly the same technique, but obviously you just make tombstone shapes. And then just keep going over any areas. Like if you think there's a bit that needs to stand out a bit more, then it's just a case of adding a little bit more of that dry brushing. And you'll see there's like little sort of threads of glue from my glue gun when I've used it to glue the tiles down. I leave those, and I actually add more later on because it works as like spider webs and stuff. It just makes it look like it's all covered in cobwebs, and you know, looks like the spiders have had a field day on it. Then what I needed to do was to highlight the details that I added around the hole in the roof and some of the little textured bits that I added with the glue gun on the other side of the roof. So what I needed was quite a dull green. Now my green I've got in a tube is quite bright, so I mixed it with a bit of burnt umber, I think this is, and then that made like a nice really sort of dull green. I didn't want it to be like a proper bright shiny green. And then just use that over those textured areas that I added to the roof to make it look like there's moss or some such growing on the roof. I added some of those textured areas to the front of the house as well. So sorry, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. So yeah, I added a bit of green here and there because I wanted to add a little bit of colour variation. I didn't want it just to be one flat colour, because nothing ever is one flat colour. Then I added the green to the area around the roof to make it look like, you know, the damp's got in, there's things growing in there, you know, just to make it look like, you know, nature's trying to take it back. Then I used a bit of brown to go over those little rafters that I created, the little like roof slats that hold the tiles on. And I'll use the brown over the top of my planks that were nailed to the window as well. Again, just for a bit of colour variation, and I didn't want it to look like it was boarded up with the same wood the house was made of. It would look a bit weird. I mean, it looks alright, but in real life it won't be the same colour as the house. So just a tiny touch of brown, just to give a hint of colour, because obviously I wanted the wood to look like it's still quite dull and faded, and like it's been boarded up for like, I don't know, 50 years, something like that, maybe longer. Because the idea with this house is it's like an old house at the bottom of the street. It's been boarded up for years. It was rumoured a witch lived there and no one will dare go in there. It's supposed to be haunted. So it's just been left boarded up, and it's just fell into disrepair over the years, over the decades. So that's my idea behind the house. Then, as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm squeezing out a tiny bit of glue, getting the one end to just stick to the piece of card, and then moving my glue gun as quick as I can, because I want to create those really thin threads of glue. And as you can see, sometimes I squirt it onto a baby wipe and then use the baby wipe to tap the glue onto the box and then spread those little bits of glue around. By creating these little stringy pieces with the glue gun, by moving my glue gun backwards and forwards quite quickly and just using the minimal amount of glue, it creates a really nice cobweb effect, and it just makes it look like it's all covered in cobwebs and spider silk. It just makes it look a lot better, looks a lot older. And obviously because it's done with the hot glue, it's within scale of the house, because if you use like the stuff you can get for decorating your house to make the big cobwebs, it tends to be a bit big, and also it looks a bit strange, whereas that looks a bit more natural. Then to go around the house, I made a series of pumpkins, and this is the first one, and the reason it's hollow is because eventually I'm going to put a light inside it. I haven't done that yet. So first of all, what I did was I started off with orange and just covered the entire pumpkin. And then you have to make sure, if you've made it hollow like I did this one so you can put lights in, just make sure you put the brush in the gaps and just wiggle them around just to make sure you get paint in all the little areas. You don't want any white showing, because especially if you do light it up, you put lights in, they'll just show up any bits you've missed. So it's important to make sure you don't miss any areas of the pumpkin. Then once you've done the main bulk of the pumpkin, like the orange part, then you need quite a dull green to do the vines. So what I did is I took a bit of my blue and mixed that in with the some of the orange, and that gave me a green that I needed. I did start off just mixing the yellow and blue together, but then eventually I just started mixing it with the orange and it worked just as well. So you want it quite dull, but not too blue, if you get what I mean. So it's quite a dull green. And then use that to go over the vine part. And you can, if you want to, sort of dry brush this later on with a lighter colour, so you've got the dark green in the recesses and then the lighter green on the outside, but it doesn't matter. You can just do it like this if you like. And then you do exactly the same for all the pumpkins, because I made, I think it was 9 pumpkins to go around the house. So as you can see here, I've added the pumpkins in place. I haven't lit that other one up yet. I've used a mummy creature that I made out of clay last year, like a little monster figure that I've stuck in the first floor window. As you can see, there he is. Hello. And then above him is one of the little keyring zombies I made last year. Basically, I just looked for stuff I got around the house to put in the windows. And then in this window on the side, I added one of the pumpkins. And then I put some little micro LED fairy lights inside the house and stuck one of my glittery black trees on the side as well. I just got a pack of these micro LEDs from the shop, so stuck those inside so it will glow at the night time. You can see the glow a bit better there. Obviously it works better in the dark. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.